It's a bright, crisp morning in an upscale Atlanta suburb, sunlight gleaming off the windows of a sprawling modern mansion. Emily Hayes, 25, the impeccably styled daughter of a powerful hotel magnate, pulls into the driveway in her sleek white Tesla, its electric hum fading as she steps out. Designer shopping bags dangle from her arms, her phone pressed to her ear as she laughs at something vapid and trivial. She strides into the grand marble foyer and nearly stumbles over a small shape curled on the floor. Dropping her bags, she gasps. It's a boy, no older than 7, thin arms hugging his stomach, coughing weakly. His skin is pale, lips cracked, eyes glassy with fever. Noah, she breathes, recognition dawning. Just then, Rosa Martinez, their housemaid in her early 40s, rushes in, breathless and wringing her hands. "Miss Emily, I'm so sorry he's been like this since last night. I thought maybe it would pass." Her words tumble over themselves, her face etched with worry and guilt. Emily's annoyance is written all over her furrowed brow, but it melts as she drops to her knees and places a cool hand on Noah's forehead. He's burning up, his tiny body trembles under her touch. Without hesitation, Emily snaps her head up. "Rosa, get in the car. Now, we're taking him to the clinic." Rosa blanches. "Miss Emily, no please, I can't afford. He's a child." Emily cuts her off, voice sharp with urgency. "We're going. That's the end of it." Rosa hesitates for half a second, eyes filling with tears, then nods shakily. Emily scoops Noah gently into her arms, his head lolling against her shoulder, and marches back to the Tesla, her shopping bags forgotten on the cold marble floor. Emily Hayes had always lived wrapped in layers of privilege she barely recognized. Private schools in Connecticut, summers on the Amalfi Coast, ski trips to Aspen, all orchestrated by her father, Charles Hayes, the towering hotel magnate who built their fortune brick by gilded brick. Now, at 25, she was beginning to take on pieces of his empire, managing boutique expansions and renovation projects, eager to prove she was more than a spoiled heir. But even as she maneuvered through glossy boardrooms and champagne Gallus, there was an emptiness that clung to her like a second skin. Her mother had left when Emily was just 10, vanishing into a new life across the country with barely a backward glance, leaving Emily to grow up under her father's cold, exacting standards. Love in their house was measured in achievements and stock dividends, not warm embraces. Meanwhile, Rosa Martinez had built a fragile life under the same roof, but in a very different world. An immigrant from Honduras, Rosa came to the US with her husband, who died in a construction accident only 2 years later, leaving her with debts and a little boy, Noah, to raise alone. Grateful for steady pay, Rosa had worked for the Hayes family ever since, scrubbing floors that gleamed like ice and cooking meals she could never dream of affording herself, retiring each night to a cramped basement room that smelled faintly of mildew. Her life revolved around keeping Noah fed, clothed, and as healthy as she could manage on her wages. The dynamic between Emily and Rosa was generally polite, bordering on cordial. Emily was nice enough, never overtly cruel, but she regarded Rosa with the cool detachment of someone who had grown up thinking household staff were more a fixture than people. Rosa, for her part, kept a respectful distance, never daring to confide the painful truths of her life, always terrified that drawing too much attention might cost her the job she clung to. Noah's fragile health added a constant undercurrent of fear. His chronic asthma worsened every Georgia summer, and the cost of inhalers and clinic visits was a quiet torment Rosa bore alone, never daring to trouble the Hayes family with her worries. But all of that cracked open that morning at the clinic. After racing through spotless hallways that smelled of antiseptic and money, Emily didn't hesitate. She handed over her credit card, barely glancing at the astronomical total. She stayed by Noah's side while doctors administered nebulizers and oxygen, holding his tiny hand as he drifted in and out of fitful sleep. When Rosa arrived at the bedside, her hands trembling, she reached for Emily's and whispered in broken, tearful English, "God bless you, Miss Emily. God bless you for this." Emily simply squeezed back, unable to voice the strange ache rising in her chest as she watched Rosa stroke Noah's hair, whispering prayers in Spanish. It was a glimpse of unconditional love that felt foreign yet painfully beautiful, stirring. Something tender and raw inside her that she hadn't realized was missing all her life. Days later, with Noah steadily recovering, the atmosphere in the mansion seemed softer, almost fragile. Emily came home early one afternoon, contracts and meetings postponed, her mind restless. Stepping into the living room, she paused at the sight before her, Rosa fast asleep on the velvet couch, Noah nestled against her chest, an oxygen mask still resting on the coffee table within reach. The boy's gentle breathing filled the silence, his small hand tangled in his mother's worn blouse. On a sudden, uncharacteristic impulse, Emily disappeared into the kitchen, returning moments later with a platter of fresh fruit sliced, mangoes, strawberries, and blueberries glistening under the chandelier light. She set it down softly, not wanting to wake Rosa, then knelt by Noah, who blinked awake with a sleepy grin. Emily asked about his favorite cartoons, fumbling awkwardly through references to superheroes and talking dogs. Soon they were both laughing, Noah's thin shoulders shaking, Rosa stirring awake to the sight of her son giggling with the young woman she worked for. It was a rare golden moment of warmth in the otherwise cavernous, cold house. That night, alone in her room, Emily opened a drawer looking for a charger and stumbled upon a small envelope, yellowed at the edges. Inside was a birthday card Rosa had given her years ago, back when Emily turned 18, a simple handwritten message in careful English. "I hope this year brings you joy and the love your mother surely still holds for you, wherever she may be." Emily pressed her lips together, eyes stinging, her breath hitching in her throat. All these years, she'd dismissed Rosa's quiet care as mere obligation. The realization struck deep. But the fragile peace shattered the next evening when Charles returned from a 10-day business trip, suitcase still in hand. He walked into the living area to find Rosa and Noah settled there. Noah with a blanket around his shoulders, watching cartoons. Charles' lip curled in disdain. Later, behind the thick mahogany doors of his study, he spoke to Emily in a low, icy voice. "You're being used. Watch yourself. These people will drain you if you let them." Emily felt something hot and defiant surge up. "Dad, Noah could have died. Rosa's been nothing but loyal to us." Charles' eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. "This is your last warning, Emily. Keep your heart out of business, or I'll handle it my way." Emily stood rooted there, pulse racing, realizing for the first time she was willing to stand between her father and something or someone she truly cared about. In the weeks that followed, Emily found herself drifting further from the polished, transactional life she'd always known and deeper into the quiet, imperfect world Rosa and Noah inhabited. She began spending her afternoons on the back patio, sharing mugs of sweet chamomile tea with Rosa, while Noah kicked a soft soccer ball around the manicured lawn. Sometimes Emily would join in, barefoot on the grass, laughing breathlessly as Noah's giggles rang out. She bought Noah stronger asthma medication and a pair of sturdy new sneakers that lit up when he ran, delighting him so much he danced around the foyer just to watch them flash. Rosa, however, was wary, her face tightening. "With both gratitude and shame, Miss Emily. I don't want charity. Please, I'll pay you back one day," she said, her voice catching. Emily waved her off lightly, but inside was deeply moved by Rosa's quiet dignity. This woman who scrubbed Emily's marble floors still clung to her pride as fiercely as any CEO in her father's boardroom. Over time, their conversations grew more personal. Rosa confided she'd once dreamed of opening a little bakery back in Honduras, with bright tiles and baskets of sweet bread by the door. Her eyes lit up, talking about it, then dimmed again. Emily found herself wanting desperately to see that sparks stay alive. But the deeper Emily invested in Rosa and Noah, the more cracks splintered across her already fragile relationship with her father. Charles began noticing unusual budget allocations, thousands quietly diverted to medical bills, pharmacy invoices, even modest grocery expenses Rosa couldn't possibly have charged. One evening he confronted Emily in the study, slamming a file onto his polished desk. "This is your idea of running a business, mixing family assets with maid problems. You're incompetent." Emily's stomach lurched. "Dad, it's hardly a fortune. Noah needed help." "Rose's, practically. She's not family," Charles snapped, eyes cold. "We're running a household, not a halfway house. You're humiliating this family name. This is your final warning. Stop now, or I'll clean this up myself." Emily clenched her fists. "Then let me take personal responsibility. Dock it from my trust, my salary, whatever you want. Just leave Rosa out of it." Charles didn't answer, merely turned away, lips pressed in a thin line. The tension strangled the house like a tightening noose. Charles grew colder, barely speaking to Emily at dinner except to make icy jabs about her charity projects. Still, Emily refused to pull away. Then one humid night, Emily awoke to frantic banging on her bedroom door. Rosa stood there, hair disheveled, eyes wild. "Miss Emily, it's Noah. I can't get him to breathe right." Within seconds they were in Emily's car, Noah wheezing violently in Rosa's arms. Emily's hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel as she sped through red lights toward the ER. By the time doctors took Noah, Emily was shaking so badly, Rosa had to press a trembling hand to her shoulder. Hours later, after Noah stabilized, Emily signed another stack of papers, barely registering the $8,000 emergency bill charged to the family account. All that mattered was the small rise and fall of Noah's chest in the hospital bed, but the reprieve was short. The next morning, Emily returned home after dropping Rosa and Noah off at the clinic for follow-up tests. As she stepped inside, she felt an eerie stillness, the usual faint hum of activity gone. Heading downstairs, she found Rosa's basement, room already stripped bare, the bed neatly made, drawers emptied, a faint scent of lemon polish lingering. Panic clawed up her throat. She called out for Rosa, ran through the house, then grabbed her phone, dialing over and over. Each call went straight to voicemail. Upstairs in his office, Charles didn't even look up from his laptop when Emily burst in. "Where are they?" she demanded, voice cracking. Charles sighed, finally meeting her gaze with glacial indifference. "I handled it, gave her a generous severance, enough to get far away from here. Consider it a mercy. Now maybe you'll focus on your real responsibilities." Emily's vision blurred with tears and rage. Her world, once so ordered, if lonely, felt like it had collapsed under the weight of something finally horribly real. She stormed out without another word, her father's cool dismissal echoing after her like a curse. Emily spent days tearing through Atlanta, following thin leads and hushed tips from old contacts, until finally she stood outside a crumbling brick building on the city's east side. The paint peeled from the doors, trash cans overflowed on the curb. Her heart hammered as she climbed the narrow stairwell, stopping in front of a faded blue door. When it swung open, there stood Rosa, clutching Noah's hand, her eyes swollen and red from crying. The room behind them was little more than a box, a sagging twin bed, 2 battered suitcases, and a chipped dresser that looked ready to collapse. Rosa's shoulders tensed as she spotted Emily, as if bracing for fresh pain. Emily didn't even try to hold back. She stepped forward, tears already spilling. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted it to be like this. Please, Let me pay your rent. Let me cover Noah's treatments. Anything you need." Her voice cracked on the last words, but Rosa shook her head, wiping her cheek roughly. "Miss Emily, I can't let Noah grow up thinking we owe everything to people who look down on us. I need to stand on my own, for his sake. I can't teach him pride if I keep accepting help that feels like debt." Emily choked on a sob, reaching for her. "Please, don't shut me out. You're my only family. I've never felt at home until you and Noah." Rosa's face crumpled. With a broken cry, she pulled Emily into a fierce embrace, clutching her so tightly it hurt. "Then understand this. Me, Hija, real family lifts each other up without holding the strings. You don't need to buy our love. You already have it. Always." When they finally pulled apart, Rosa fumbled in her pocket and pressed a small cardboard box into Emily's hand. Inside lay a delicate silver bracelet, simple but beautiful. Emily's breath caught. "I saved for months," Rosa whispered. "It was supposed to be for your birthday, because you were a daughter to me long before you ever saw me as anything." But the maid, Emily, couldn't stop sobbing. She clutched Rosa again, holding on as if to anchor herself in a world that finally made sense, built on something real. Not wealth or power, but quiet, steady love. Not long after, Emily found herself standing in her new, modest apartment, still half-furnished, boxes stacked in corners. She'd moved out after an explosive final fight with Charles, who refused to understand any of it. The knock on her door wasn't a surprise. She opened it to find her father standing there, impeccably dressed, eyes hard. "I hope you're enjoying your little experiment in poverty," Charles sneered. "Because it's permanent. Your trust fund, the company accounts, all frozen. You're on your own now." Emily swallowed hard. Fear pulsed through her, but underneath it was something stronger. She drew in a shaky breath, lifted her chin. "Then I'll build my own life, with people who love me for who I am, not for the Hayes name. You can keep your money. I'd rather be poor and loved than rich and alone like you." For the first time, Charles faltered, a flicker of something. Regret, hurt, passing over his face before it hardened again. Without another word, he turned and walked away. Emily closed the door gently behind him, exhaling as tears stung her eyes. Alone in the quiet, she looked down at the silver bracelet on her wrist, thumb brushing over its smooth edge. Somehow, despite everything, she felt freer than she ever had in her life. A year later, the world looked entirely different for Emily. Her days no longer began in cavernous marble halls or boardrooms echoing with her father's clipped voice. Instead, they started with early strategy calls squeezed into her small but bright home office, followed by afternoons walking through boutique hotel lobbies she helped revitalize. Her consultancy was modest, still growing, but she'd earned every inch of it, from negotiating stubborn contractors to scrubbing bathrooms herself when a new opening fell short on staff. The work was hard, humbling, sometimes chaotic, but for the first time, her life was truly hers. Every morning, she clasped the slender silver bracelet Rosa had given her around her wrist, a quiet promise she carried everywhere. On a warm Saturday, Emily pulled up outside a cheerful little corner, bakery painted sunflower yellow, a wooden sign overhead read asterisk Noah's Delights. Asterisk, and through the wide windows she could see bright displays of pastries. Families crowding small tables, children licking icing off their fingers. Inside, Rosa bustled behind the counter, flour on her apron, face aglow as she boxed up sweet bread for an elderly couple. Noah, a bit taller now, managed the register with practiced confidence. Flashing a grin that made Emily's chest squeeze tight with joy, Rosa caught sight of her and lit up, waving her over. Within moments, Emily found herself perched at a tiny sidewalk table, a steaming cup of cinnamon coffee in hand. Rosa joined her, wiping sweat from her brow, eyes dancing. "Can you believe it? We're booked for 2 birthday orders next week. I might even hire help." Rosa laughed, her accent rolling warmly. Emily smiled, heart full. She'd quietly invested seed money to help secure the lease and buy new ovens, but made sure the arrangement left Rosa with full ownership, no tangled contracts, nothing that would ever feel like a debt hanging over her. It mattered to Emily that Rosa could stand proudly on her own. They sat there for a long while, sipping coffee, watching Noah dart around with trays of pastries. Children shrieked with laughter nearby. Couples strolled hand in hand. Cars honked. In the distance, it was loud, imperfect, utterly alive. Emily leaned back in her chair, letting the sun warm her face. For years she'd thought happiness lived in spotless hallways and endless zeros on a balance sheet. But here, surrounded by sugar, laughter, and the easy rhythm of a family who'd chosen her long before she'd even realized it, Emily, finally, felt whole as the sun dipped low behind the rows of quaint brick buildings, painting the street in soft gold. Emily stepped out of the bakery with Rosa by her side. The evening air buzzed with laughter and car horns, the scent of warm sugar drifting. From the shop door behind them, Emily turned and wrapped Rosa in a tight hug, feeling the solid, gentle strength of a woman who had given her more love than she ever knew she needed. Just then, Noah burst through the door, a wide grin on his face, holding out a tiny cupcake. The frosting was a wobbly swirl of pink and white, the word love carefully scrawled on top in shaky blue icing. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Tears pricked her eyes as she crouched down, taking the cupcake gently from his small hands. "Oh, Noah." Her voice broke, and before she could say another word, she pulled him into her arms. He giggled, squeezing her back, his skinny arms locked tight around her neck. Rosa stepped close, wrapping an arm around both of them. Her smile was soft, eyes glistening. Emily looked up at her and whispered, voice thick with tears, This is family, not blood, not money, just love." Rosa's hand found hers, giving it a tender squeeze. Together, they stood like that on the bustling sidewalk, under a string of glowing cafe lights, the world spinning gently around them. Emily closed her eyes, breathing in the warm, imperfect magic of it all. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was searching for home. She was already there,